the end of segment 3, I requested that you relax your notions regarding the scientific method and return to the realm of pure theory. Also, I made the assumption that space is composed of grains or particles of some kind, and that the assiduous growth/energy of space at Platon boundaries is the fifth fundamental force of nature. With these assumptions stated, let's now consider this. Physics and astronomy makes continued use of the constant pi, the ratio of the diameter to the circumference of a theoretical circle, in many calculations. And there is also another constant, phi, which sort of hovers in the background of science and also art. Phi is the golden proportion number from the Fibonacci series, and as is pi, phi is a dimensionless, transcendental, or irrational number, 1.618033 ... So we have two ideal numbers, useful in science and art, that live in an imaginary two-dimensional plane, one based upon the ideal circle, the other based upon an ideal spiral, something like a spiral we see in certain seashells. At first glance, these two seem to be unrelated, but they have an almost exact algebraic relationship to one another, shown here. This almost equality I call the smooth harmonic constant and give it the symbol shown in the illustration, the Arabic letter nun. I view the value of nun, our smooth harmonic constant, to be the shadow or the catalyst that unveils the cosmological constant and is a fundamental key to the growth of the universe. Trust me, I know that it is difficult to get a conceptual handle on this, but these illustrations may help somewhat. The first shows a golden spiral on the XY plane and interlocked circles on the YZ plane. Now imagine that the energy inherent in nun, our smooth harmonic constant, integrates the two systems to create a combination of the two, a transforming helix, now integrated, three-dimensional XYZ space, the space that we know and love. The next illustration shows a different approach to the same issue. In this one, imagine a platen to be composed of two components, each with slightly different tendencies. One component tends to become a closed circuit, the other component tends to become a spiral. Now consider the two components and the equation 5 pi approximately equal to 6 phi squared to represent their perimeters, two closed or almost closed strings, as it were. Now these two strings are almost equal, their equality being mitigated by the smooth harmonic constant 0.0002479, and these two components of a platen dance together something like this. And again, the smooth harmonic constant represents an internal driving force inherent in the platen, causing it to somehow resolve both the circular and the spiral tendency inherent within each component in order to favor or at least contribute to an expansive helical motion within space itself. And this spatial motion is reflected in the masses that live in the spatial context. At this point, you may consider all of this as merely interesting speculation and of little other value were it not for this. When we factor the smooth tension constant with the observed velocity of light in a vacuum, the result is what I consider the refined value for the Hubble constant, or approximately 72.15 kilometers per second, or h sub OR. This is the value that astrophysicists are experimentally honing in upon as the resolved value of the Hubble constant after 80 years of experimentation and discussion. With this simple equation, we have refined the value of the Hubble constant based upon pure theory and forever integrated both the golden proportion and the Fibonacci series as integral components of the growth of space in the universe. So let's go a bit further. Now imagine every particle or grain that comprises space to have an enclosing platen boundary of small circuit platens. On average, the number of platons per spatial particle is equal to 13.4 plus or minus 2%. If you remember, this is our contact binder constant from segment 2. In other words, each of these spatial particles contacts, on average, 13.4 other spatial particles, and all of the interacting platons forming an intricate network of connected platons, a three-dimensional chain, the strings of which are vibrating in an intricate and very energetic dance. Again, something like this. Now, add into this random mix of particles of space entity events, atoms, molecules, planets, stars, galaxies. Two things are happening simultaneously. First, the connected spatial particles accommodate the entity events, or masses, by being squeezed near the entity events and bending the spatial network around the entity events. Second, because of the smooth harmonic constant disparity between the string content of the platons, the vibrating spatial units have a locally dominant helical direction to them, some in one direction, some in another direction. The summation of these directions is imparted to the entity events living within space and is manifested in the predominant spiraling and helical motions of entity events that we observe in the grand universe. But there are, of course, additional somethings going on in all of this, and one of them is the growth of the universe. Based upon Hubble's work, we can measure the growth, and we believe that this growth is accelerating. The cause of this mysterious accelerating force is unknown, but astronomers nonetheless give it a title, dark energy. The other something has the term dark matter. This mysterious unknown came about because spinning galaxies, given the rate of spin, should be larger than they are if we only calculate in the gravitational force inherent in the observable matter. So the tentative conclusion is that there must be an invisible matter, dark matter, or something else that plays a significant part in holding these large masses together. It is my contention that the assiduous growth of space, our fifth fundamental force, is the singular source of both dark matter and dark energy. Here is a summary of my overall view. First, space is composed of a continually increasing number of discrete spatial units having two components: fresh, pristine space and established cognate space. Second, linked platons among entity events on the grand scale live in gravitationally field-free regions that are gateways through which the cumulative integrative growth of space occurs. Third, in the growth process, discrete units of pristine space continually emerge from a metadimensional source, cascade through linked platon binder gateways, and integrate with cognate space. Fourth, the energy of the growth of three-dimensional space manifests as spatial transformative volume, spatial pressure or compactification, spatial wind, and spatial friction. How this occurs will be the subject of the following segments of this series. We have traveled a great distance from our initial discussion of small circles and architectural structures. At this point, it might be important for you to review the earlier segments of this instructional series on catenatic geometry. Then stay tuned to this Catenatic channel for continued additional surprises.